Imagine you've been reading Nietzsche's Beyond Good and Evil, just starting it again a few weeks ago just because it changed you so much the first time and you haven't finished it yet. You read it slowly, underline, and summarize. However, yesterday you were at your dad's and you found a box with books in it. In the box, you found Beyond Good and Evil, but this edition was printed in 1965. You know your dad does not read Nietzsche, so you asked who it belonged to, and apparently it was your grandfather's, whom you never got a chance to meet. The strange thing is you knew he was a psychiatrist, which makes you curious since you're studying that too, aiming for your master's and hopefully more. That interest is not shared with anybody in your family besides him. You had your own book in your bag, which is also a coincidence, and the really scary part is that looking at the two books, you had underlined the same places and made similar notes all the way through. It's so extremely weird, and it feels powerful at the same time. You've never experienced synchronicity in this way before. If it is that, you're just blown away. And the weird thing is your father didn't know he even had that book, and it was one of the only boxes left since he was moving soon. Welcome to Bright Lights Beyond Synchronicities. Okay guys, welcome to season 3 of Bright Lights Beyond the podcast. Woo! I first off want to thank you guys so much for joining us again, and a special thank you and encouragement for Marina, who is in Chicago finishing up her last semester of grad school and working on her capstone. I want to thank her for everything she's done for the podcast, and we cannot wait to see your capstone and everything else you do. So we're rooting for you, girl, and cheers to almost being a master of digital media and storytelling. Along with the encouragement from Marina and a thanks to you guys, I wanted to give a very, very special, a BLB welcome to our newest member, my co-host for season 3, Andie. Woo!
Hello.
Cheers.
So happy to be here. Thank you, Lexie, for the warm introduction. And I want to give another shout out to Marina. She did a great job with the first 2 seasons. So definitely big shoes to fill. So I hope I'll do a great job this season. But as Lexie said, my name is Andie. I swear Lexie and I must have known each other in a past life, but in this life, just since kindergarten, which is a long, long time ago. We don't want to talk about it.
Yesterday, girl.
I'm also born and raised in the great state of Texas, baby. And the funny thing is I work in PR, so I'm always sending my clients out there to do podcasts, but this is my first time being behind the mic. So I'm super excited. This season is going to rock. I'm super excited to talk and dive into all things unexplained and synchronicities and talk about some meaningful coincidences with you guys. So yeah. Great to be here.
Yay! Well, welcome, Andie. This is going to be a joy and a treat for you guys because it's a well-known fact that me and Andie when we hang out together, there's not a TV on, there's not an activity we're doing. We're literally sitting and we're just talking. So this will be a really refreshing thing for you guys, and I think it'll be fun. It'll be fun for us too because we do this all the time. So now you guys get a little sneak peek, and so now we got the introductions out of the way. I'm excited to delve into this season. Now, last season, we mainly focused on kind of what happens to your body after you pass on and like the spiritual elements of like death and kind of the great beyond, right? The previous season 1, was mainly focused on near-death experiences, and I'm super excited for this season because it's going to combine elements of near-death experience, kind of the spirituality of last season, and then also the really cool kind of phenomena of synchronicities and what all that covers. So I'm like really, really excited to get into it. So without further ado, why don't we get to talking about the dang thing, huh?
Doing the dang thing.
Doing the dang thing. So, Andie, will you please enlighten us on what a synchronicity is and kind of like how that all came about? I think that a lot of people like maybe have heard the term, but like don't necessarily A, know where it comes from, and B, like know the intricacy of like what a synchronicities is. Like we've all heard of a coincidence, but like what makes synchronicity different, or, you know, what is it, girl?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, if you asked me before this podcast, define synchronicity, I probably wouldn't be able to do a great job, which is exactly why we're here today. So let's get into it. So as many people might know, at least in the world of psychiatry and psychology, Carl Jung is the originator of the actual term synchronicity. And by his definition, it literally means, quote, falling together in time.
Wow.
Which is a really fun definition. He actually first mentioned the term publicly in 19 1930 in the address he gave at the memorial service for Richard Wilhelm. And that was just, he gave it in the speech. And then he later published his book where he dived more into the subject. And so the definition kind of expanded. And so Carl Jung describes it as the surprise that occurs when a thought in the mind is mirrored by an external event to which it has no apparent causal connection. So with that definition, it's almost like something in your mind kind of being reflected in the real world. So there's that mental and physical connection. And a big difference between coincidences and synchronicities, because I think the two terms can be kind of interchangeable and we use them interchangeably. But whereas a coincidence is maybe something that has a rational explanation, maybe you and your friend happen to take the exact same bus and you guys sit next to each other and run into each other and you say, oh, what a coincidence. Maybe you guys are heading the same place. It's a coincidence, but it's not maybe as meaningful. Experts agree that a synchronicity has a larger meaning. It has a spiritual meaning to you. It has, it has that unexplainable kind of aspect to it, but it has to mean something bigger than, just a coincidence. And I want to kind of circle back to Carl Jung because he wrote about a very well-known synchronicity now, and people kind of regard this as, one of the first kind of written synchronicities. And he talked about a young woman who came to him and she had a really serious demeanor. She's very highly educated and she entered his office for a psychiatry session. And he could see that she was really, not open to changing her mental, her beliefs, her mindset. And so he was really looking for something that would, quote, soften her rationalist shell with a somewhat more human understanding. So he wanted the magic of a meaningful coincidence. In that moment, he asked for it and kind of almost manifested it. And while this was happening, the woman was telling him about a dream she had where she was gifted a piece of a gold scarab jewelry. A scarab, if you don't know, is like a little beetle. So she's talking about this and all of a sudden at the window, Carl hears some taps and he opens the window and it's a scarab-like beetle. And so he brings the beetle into his office and he gives it to her and he said, "Here's your scarab." And he, in that moment, handed her a link between her dreams and the real world. So whether this is true, I don't know. Who knows?
It's true.
It's Carl's interpretation and kind of a really well-known example of a synchronicity.
Totally. So what I'm hearing you say about synchronicities is that it's different in the fact that it's a meaningful coincidence, meaning that it's not just like, oh, like you said, we're sitting on the same bus or, oh, just happens to be the same thing. It's like a meaningful, I've seen this before. And when you mentioned the thing about the beetle in the dreams, this reminds me of a point that Jung, I knew this was going to happen. Carl Jung, Swiss. I mean, like, honestly, Switzerland, get it together.
Literally the
J,
Swiss.
the silent J, right? Okay. So when you were talking about the difference between the actual beetle physical and then what she saw in her dream, now Carl makes some points in his book. So in that book you were mentioning, the book entitled Synchronicities, it was published in 1952. And in that book, he talks about two major themes of synchronicities, and that's the inner and the outer states of consciousness, meaning that you see the same thing or you see the meaningful coincidence both in reality, so like the physical beetle, and also in your dreams, like the golden brooch beetle thing that she saw. So I think that's really interesting, and a really good point to make is that there are things that Carl describes in his book that make synchronicities different and more purposeful, and I just find that was really, it's a great example of one of his themes, which is the inner and the outer states of consciousness.
Yeah, the interconnectedness between the inner self and the outer world. Absolutely.
Oh my God, love it. I love that.
No, I love it too. It's a great reminder of everything is connected.
Seriously. And listen, people will say what they say about Carl, and, depending on how deep you are in with the metaphysical and consciousness and like what you've learned, Carl Jung is someone that is basically coined as the father of consciousness, really.
So speaking of consciousness, Lexie, what else do we know about consciousness, the field of consciousness specifically?
So in the field of consciousness, when we were looking into this, I didn't find it, obviously. I came across it. Well, no, I guess I did find it.
You found it.
Found it on Wikipedia, girl. I found this entire, subgenre of thought, which is coined the New Thought. And it was originally given this term by Phineas Quimbley, who is literally born on my birthday. I read that and I was like,
Slay,
okay,
an Aquarius.
Aquarius King. Literally,
we love
Aquarius
a fellow
King.
Aquarius.
We do, and we love someone born on the 16th, honestly. I'm like...
February 16th, mark it.
I know.
It's coming.
Literally. And he he was around in the 19th century, and he was described as a folk healer, mentalist, and a mesmerist. And he is coined with founding this movement. And the movement that he found was called the New Thought. And it has a focus on divinity, higher presence, and omnipresent God, that kind of stuff. And one of his big teachings was the law of attraction. And the law of attraction states that positive thoughts attract positive thoughts and negative thoughts attract negative thoughts. And I found this important because it also kind of it's giving synchronicities. Because what you envision is what you get. It's kind of like, a manifestation comes up a lot too.
Yeah.
In synchronicities, because if you can dream it, you can see it. Manifestation, mind over body, law of attraction, those are very similar in the way that they manifest. And so I just came across him and I said, it's giving synchronicities, you guys. It's giving.
He's giving, period.
He's giving period, but it's also giving synchronicities, if that makes sense. You want it, you can achieve it. You see the signs are coming. You get what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
In the vein of manifestation, I guess my question is like, you hear the term all the time, like manifest it, girl, whatever. But like, why should we care about things like synchronicities and manifestation, laws of attraction, Carl Jung, for goodness sake? Why should we care about this stuff?
It's a good question, and a question a lot of other people have asked, not just you. So just to get down to the biology of it, as humans, we are naturally built to look for patterns in life as a way of developing better understanding of our history, of our culture, of our lives, and also predicting what we can expect to happen. Humans don't necessarily do great with uncertainty. And so to throw it all the way back, beyond Carl Jung, beyond anyone we've talked about today, to throw it back to ancient times, experts theorize that from an evolutionary perspective, pattern recognition was beneficial for us in the Stone Age. It was a basic survival tool. For example, our ancient human ancestors learned to predict possible threats. So for example, they might notice an ancient predator coming around at the same time every single day. So they would know during that time, we need to hide, we need to take shelter. And so, it was safest to stay hidden during those times. So today it goes a lot farther beyond just survival. Synchronicities can serve as subtle signs for us when we're navigating life's crossroads. I mean, how many times have we been, at a path where we can choose one option or the other? We don't know what to choose, and choosing one versus the other may alter our lives in drastic ways. And maybe some of you listening have been in that moment where you're like, should I commit to this college or that college, or take this job or that job? Or maybe you're in a love triangle. I don't know. Could even be that dramatic.
Oh my gosh, Edward, Bella, Jacob.
And you're like, I don't know who to pick. And maybe you overhear a conversation just from some random, people talking at a cafe that mention, this school you've been thinking of, or they say the name of this guy you've been really liking, or, something like that. And all of a sudden it clicks and you know which path to take. So synchronicities can serve as kind of helping us make those tough decisions in life and kind of guiding us on that path we're meant to be on. Beyond that, encountering synchronicities can also strengthen our senses of interconnectedness with the world. We were kind of talking earlier about how, everything's connected.
Yeah.
And I think synchronicities really just reinforce that. We can even get into the quantum physics of it, like all matter is connected. And there's actually a researcher who won an award. I don't know what award, but
the award, the biggest one.
The Nobel Peace Prize. I don't know. I don't want to get it wrong.
You never know. You can never tell.
But the latest research in that area, he was actually studying, in technical terms, synchronicities, but essentially matter that can affect other matter, and it's never truly split up. I'm not smart enough to really dive into the complexities of it, but that was the gist that I got from when I looked into it. So kind of the interconnectedness of the world, it can reinforce our instincts. When you have that inkling, kind of like you said, the inner and the outer, when you sense something and then it happens, or you have that funny feeling and then it happens, it almost reinforces like, trust your gut, trust your instincts, you're doing the right thing. And to bring it back NDE style, as we always do,
yes,
synchronicities serve as a connection to the great beyond. And Lexie, I know you have some stuff to add here, but I know a lot of us can relate of, maybe we have people who have passed to the other side who always told us, I would come back to you as a hummingbird, as a certain type of flower, a butterfly, a rainbow. And you see that moment, you see those signs in those moments when you need it most. And that's a great representation of synchronicity, kind of almost creating a path to the other side and allowing that connection.
I totally agree. And I think what you said was honestly so beautiful. Like, it's very true. And I think that going way back to our primordial existence and like what we needed to survive to nowadays where it's like, oh, I see a yellow rose and like I know that so-and-so is thinking of me and this is special. And it's finding the meaning in the occurrences that happen to you, because even though coincidences may be seen as like a lower rung, quote unquote, of synchronicities, there is really, in my opinion, no such thing as a coincidence. And I think just the topic of synchronicities and how everything is meaningful is just exciting. And I think that's something definitely worth looking into. Now, not only is it something that we can theorize, but I think that everyone has maybe had synchronicities in their own lives, and ones we either know about or it's canon that we've been taught as children. And I have a example. I actually texted my mom and my aunt today, and it's a story that's been told, and I guess it didn't really have, not that it didn't have meaning, but now that I'm looking into this, it gives kind of like a whole new meaning to kind of like what it meant. So my great uncle, so my pop-up's brother, he passed when I was around 2 years old. He died early. He was in his 50s, actually. And what happened is that he had a heart attack and he didn't know. And then when he went in for a checkup, they found that he had a heart attack and they gave him surgery. And unfortunately, he passed. And, you know, I had heard this story that I'm about to tell once before, maybe a couple times. And like I said, I never really assigned value to it because I didn't, I guess, understand it. But apparently he came over to see the family one night. I want to say maybe a week before he passed. And I was a very, not a shy kid, but I really only liked my mom and my aunt. And like, I didn't let a lot of people touch me. I was like, don't look at me, literally don't talk to me. You know what I mean? So it was a very known thing. And as my uncle was going to leave, my aunt had me in her arms and he was like, oh, he went in to kiss me. And she's like, oh, you know, Lexie won't kiss you. And apparently I like leaned into him and I gave him a hug for the first time. And they looked at each other and they laughed. They're like, oh my gosh, like you better watch out. Like that's so crazy. Lexie never does that. And then, you know, a week later he's passed on. But looking back at that, that's like a synchronicity. It's like a meaningful coincidence that the one time that I, you know, like I said, I never went to anybody. I was the worst kid. I never wanted to be out of my mom's arm. The one time I do it, and it's like a meaningful thing for my uncle who then a week later passes. And it's things like that where you don't think about, but looking back, like, was that synchronous? Like, was that something that was meant to happen for a reason and it gave meaning to it? And now that we have this sweet memory that we can share about how, you know, in the last moments of being around the family, you have this like sweet thing that's happened and it gives meaning to it. But that was something that I thought about just now, and I, you know, asked them to tell the story again. But yeah.
Absolutely. No, I love that. First of all, what a beautiful story and a beautiful memory. It made me think of, you know, how people say like, because you said you were 2 at the time. So, you know, still a baby. People talk about how children and babies are closer to the other side of life because they just came from whatever other side that may be, where their souls were, you know, waiting to be born into the world. So I don't know, maybe you knew something that no one else did because you were closer to that realm and you were kind of sending him off in a way and you knew. So I love that. That's beautiful.
Yeah, I agree. I think it is like it's all the things you just said. Truly.
So I also have an example of a synchronicity, not quite as deep as yours. Mine is more of a fun one, but growing up, my mom loved Jimmy Buffett. Shout out to all my parrot heads out there, and may he rest in peace. We miss him.
Period.
It was the first concert I ever went to. Probably I was like 5. You know, I should not have been there. But I was. Grew up going to Jimmy Buffett concerts, listening to him in the car. I have a tattoo in my mom's handwriting of her favorite lyric of Jimmy's. So Jimmy Buffett was a big part of my childhood. Even Lexie knows this.
It's true.
And when I met my now fiance, we were talking and it got brought up. And he goes, you'll never believe what I have a tattoo of. It's representative of wasting away again in Margaritaville. Yes. Shall we record an album?
After us. I know, I'm like, don't come after us, Jimmy's estate.
Anyways, he had the tattoo. He told me that him and his roommates were obsessed with that song. They would play it all the time. They loved Jimmy. It was like not a running joke, but just a running theme in his college roommates, you know, friendship. So what a weird synchronicity that this man.
That is so crazy.
I know, because it's like how many people, especially our age, love Jimmy Buffett enough to get a tattoo.
One person.
So I just thought that was funny. And, you know, instantly I was like, yes, you're my soulmate.
Yes.
I've shown him so many Jimmy Buffett songs. songs. So I just thought that was a fun one.
I love that. And that's definitely a synchronicity. And I think that ties into kind of like what they say to look for when you're looking for synchronicities. One more I'll actually give today, which I thought was cool. Like genuinely, this was cool.
I love it. I'm excited.
So, my cousin's boyfriend, we watch the same comedian, I guess sometimes. I was talking about it with my cousin when I saw her over the weekend. And I was like, oh, I love Theo Von. He's from the same town as our cousins, blah, 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 whatever. And today he messaged me on Instagram. Theo Von had a near-death experience person on his podcast today. And I was like, girl, why am I recording Bright Lights Beyond today? And it was just like, I was just like, what? Like, and I don't necessarily know if that's like a synchronicities plain cut and dry, but sometimes it is that simple.
It's a coincidence and it's a meaningful one.
It is meaningful because we're doing the podcast today. Now it would be like, oh, whatever, but like today was the day.
Today. So I feel like what you're telling me is we need Theo Von on the podcast.
What I'm saying is that we're reaching out to your people, Theo, like let us in. So just kind of, I guess, to wrap it up a little bit and maybe to look for the synchronicities in your own life. I have a list of 1,100 different signs that you can look for. And I suggest you Google them because I'm going to list it off rapid fire. So these are kind of some things to look for or possible signs that may be synchronicities, okay? So numbers, like golden opportunities, musical messages, repetitive synchronicities, people, colors, animals, symbols, sounds, nature, words from others, divine timing, unexplained phenomena, dreams, straightforward, obvious signs, which I think that Theo Von was just an obvious sign, someone leaving, specific information, and trickster energy. What does that mean?
Oh my God, stop. I feel like you have trickster energy.
It's like Puck from Midsummer Night Dream.
Girl, I was like Midsommar. That is crazy. I also feel like we covered a lot of those, like the dreams,
seriously,
the musical,
the song thing. I'm like, that's you and Trey.
Absolutely. So this just goes to show that once you start watching out for them, I feel like you're going to be noticing them left and right.
First
of all, I love that. I'm going to be on the lookout and texting you every single time.
Yeah, I'm like, what is trickster energy? I want several.
That's my New Year's resolution, is to embody trickster energy. I also wanted to, along the same lines of watching out for synchronicities. And another reason you should be on the lookout for the synchronicities that Lexie just mentioned is because those moments are like small little miracles helping to illuminate the way and confirming you're on the right path and reassuring you that there are bigger forces at play in the universe. I know that's been a really common theme throughout Bright Lights Beyond. So I wanted to make sure I added that of, we're here for a reason and there's things at play, maybe beyond our control, beyond our knowledge, but they're there when you look for them.
Chef's kiss, ladies and gentlemen. So, as we're drawing to a close, the first episode of season 3, Bright Lights Beyond Synchronicities, I kind of want to just give you a sneak peek of what we're going to be covering this season. So, we're going to be talking about near-death experiences and how those experiences are connected to so many other occurrences in their lives and the people around them lives. We're going to be talking about, like we said, meaningful coincidences, serendipity, how to navigate these different synchronicities that we have, zodiac signs. Yes, you heard me, zodiac signs, crystals. We're going to be talking about a whole lot of things that we assign meaning to in our life. And just in that type of realm, if you get what I'm saying. If you guys have any suggestions on other topics you want to cover in the synchronicities realm and coincidences and just kind of like the threads of life, please reach out to us on our Instagram, on our website, and honestly, text Andie. Her phone number is, and I quote, but that's kind of what we have to look forward to this season. So we're really freaking excited. And again, welcome Andie to Bright Lights Beyond, the BLBLers, the BLBlers.
BLB community.
Yes, I love that. The BLB community, our Bright Light Beyonders. Anything you want to say to the commune?
Ooh, to the community, leave a rating and review. Be brutally honest. How did I do? My first gig at co-hosting. We know Lexie's fabulous, but I need that honest feedback. I do have one quote.
Love it quote. Love ending on a quote.
I just think this summarizes this season and this episode really well. So, as author W.B. Yeats puts it, the world is full of magic things. patiently waiting for our senses to grow sharper. So, ladies and gentlemen, all listeners out there, sharpen those senses so you can find those synchronicities in your lives, because they're out there waiting for you.
And as always,
Live life beyond.